Stop it. Stop it. Listen to music. Get myself all G'd up, ready for tonight. Ready to go. Good evening, all. Didn't know how to switch it off for a second. I Am the Slime on Your TV Set by Frank Zappa. Anyway, too much information. Okay, so good evening, everybody. We've seen we've had a few people in the house already having a party. 34 people in the house, 6 thumbs up. We haven't done anything yet. Don't bloody put thumbs up until we do something. Shame we can't have thumbs down as well, isn't it? Okay, so let's introduce ourselves, shall we? Same normal people, isn't it? Simon Spruce, good evening. Denver Skinner, good evening. Karen Evans, good evening. Christopher, good evening. Paul Jarvis, Alan Head. Andy said, good evening. Karen Evans. God, we got some spanners in here tonight, haven't we? Michael McLaughlin, message retracted already. Oh my God. And Adrian Bromley, what did he say? Lee Summers, good evening. Phil Watkins, good evening. Michael, not Tables Carlos, good evening. Did you get your squirrel? Not the table, Carlos. Did you get your squirrel? I know that Ian got his because he contacted me yesterday, and so he got it. Good evening, D. Stokes. Jim Cooper, good evening to you. William G. Webb, good evening to you as well. Alan Loads, good evening, and Steve Pace, good evening. So we've got a few people in the house. We've got 42 people in the house. That's very nice of you to join me. What would you like to talk about tonight? Anything particular? No, Chris, not yet. It's probably because it's Ireland. They're probably having to fly across to you. But no problem at all. What whistle do I use and why? I use a... they fell off the bloody chair. I use a 210.5. Can you see that? Can you see that? And the reason I use a 210.5 is I've always used a 210.5. Can I train dogs on a 211.5? Yes. It just says 210.5 on there, and it's an ACME whistle. Now I know some people have got gold ones and silver ones, and some people. Good evening, Pierre. I know some people have the what they call the silent whistle. It's not silent; it just gives a very fine whistle. The metal. I've never got really got on with those. We used to put a piece of plastic over the edge of them so you don't break your teeth. But with these plastic ones, they last me about a year, and I wear them out through the top there because I tend to hold them with my teeth on the front of my teeth very lightly. Ross Taylor, training my 10-month-old cocker. She's coming on nicely, quartering well, but she looks at me most of the time. How can I get her to get her nose down more, please? My 10-month-old cocker, she's coming on nicely, quartering well, but she looks at me most of the time. How can I get her to get her nose down? Do you really want your 10-month-old cocker hunting really, really hard at this stage? If you're throwing a lot of balls for the dog, or you're throwing a lot of dummies for the dog, and that's all the dog knows, then you can create that if you're not careful. It depends how you've trained the dog, Ross. At the end of the day, 10 months old, if you've got scent in a field, that'll get the dog's head down. But I wouldn't worry too much at 10 months old. Just go through the motion of if you're using your hands all the time, that can cause it. I just have a tendency to put your hands in your pockets and just let the dog just roam in front of you. Let the dog just enjoy itself in front of you, and then use a turn whistle to get the dog to turn. And it's just a game. I just play a game with my youngsters, and they soon learn to put their heads down, especially when they come across a bit of scent. But I wouldn't go doing it too young with a young dog. I wouldn't be doing it too soon with a young dog. Paul Jarvis, mine's a 211. 211, just stuck with it. Yeah, people say to me, I'm training my dog. Can you train my dog on a 211.5 instead of a 210.5? Years ago, I used to go and buy a 2 and 11.5, and every time I go out, I have to take that whistle for that dog. But no, I train every dog on a 2 10.5. And once you get your dog home and you get a bond with the dog and you start using a whistle, it's the tone of the whistle. I understand that, but it's how you blow it, it's how you use it, and the dog soon learns to respond from that. That's what I find myself. Who in your pack would you say is the best dog at the minute? It's impossible to say, James, because I've got youngsters coming on. I've got 2 nice youngsters coming on, and I've got older dog that he's on his, not on his last legs, but he's now 9.5. At the end of the day, he'll be taking a back seat compared to what he's been like over the years. But what is the best dog? You know what is the best dog? Some dogs are right good hunting dogs. Some dogs are thinkers, and you can get the handling into them to such a level that it's amazing. What is the best dog? I haven't got the passion like I used to have to train dogs to such a high standard, because I used to run in competition, and I used to want the best dog on the day, because I love shooting over my dogs. I love working my dogs, and to me, less is more. Like I keep saying, it's about natural ability rather than angler ability. And to be honest with you, there's nothing finer than watching a good hunting dog flush a bird and not stop on the whistle and chase after it, pick it and bring it back. They soon learn to find birds and pick birds that have been shot. But I like that control as well, so I put the control into them as well. But they don't have to be robots for me. But can I train them to be robots? Yes, I can show people how to train dogs to be robots if that's what people want. But at the end of the day, that's not what I look for these days. I think as you get older, your mindset changes slightly. But it all depends what people want. If people just want a little shooting dog. Matt Crew, I don't know, Matt. Really like the 14. Why is these messages being held for review? Come on, guys. They don't need to be held for review. Come on, you've got to be quicker than that. Really like the 14-month-old bitch you're training now. Is she yours, Chris? Well, I bred her, but she's out of a dog that I owned. Well, I bred. He's 8 years old, I think now, and belonged to a couple in Bristol, funny enough, Matt. And I'm training her for them, and she'll be out on the shoots this season with them. And she's taken a while to mature up, but she's a lovely soft bitch. James Morgan, when I've been with Tim Carruthers, he told me if your dog doesn't do what you ask it, you need to get after the dog and shake it and let it know who's boss. Oh, James, stop giving away freaking information. Honestly, Tim Carruthers might not like that. Tim Carruthers, being a judge, might not want people knowing that he's giving discipline to dogs. Tim Carruthers is a good trainer, and at the end of the day, good trainers will say what they do, but you don't need to sort of put it all up on the internet. Why? Because there's too many bloody softies out there, too many snowflakes. My video, did anyone see the video I put up with Doogie? Paul Cocker, Dougie. Did you see the Dougie video I put up on Patreon?
Yeah, Jay Brooker says great video.
Oh, Jay said it, as I haven't seen that.
Great video, Dougie, today. Lovely to see him learning again and quickly.
Yeah. Well, isn't it funny? There's Jay. That's Dougie's owner, and he's watched a video today of me disciplining his dog, and he said it's a great video. Isn't he freaking cruel? He needs locking up, that boy, doesn't he? He needs locking up. He should have said, "How dare you do that to my bloody dog, you big bully?" No, the dog has got to learn rules and boundaries, and look how fast he learnt from the corrections I gave him. Now, you didn't see the corrections through the e-collar, and they were very light, and yet he responded. But you saw me when I put hands on him, and it's all to do with that timing. So James is right. Tim Carruthers told him, you need to get after the dog and shake it. But if you just get after your dog and shake it and you don't read the situation, you can mess your dog up. So it's easy giving out that advice, but there's more to it, isn't there? And I was listening to a live feed today on a live feed this afternoon, and they were talking about discipline and timing, when to give discipline and when to give correction. And not enough correction doesn't get the desired result. Too much correction doesn't get the desired result. So the timing and the correction has got to be spot on. And that's an art. And that's an art that only you would learn and understand if you have been doing it for a long period of time. Because a lot of people come here and they love their dogs to death, but the dogs have taken over. And a lot of people come here and the dogs are suppressed. They still love the dogs to death, but they've done all the obedience first. And that's where we get the problem. Dougie's the teenage version of Rafa with plenty of testosterone. Exactly. And some dogs are and some dogs aren't. And we could argue, is it from the environment he's come from and learned to get away with it through Jay and the family, and Jay not perhaps knowing what he's doing and just over loving the dog? Or is it in the genetics? Well, I'm not a scientist. I asked a simple question today on a live feed, and I asked, are dogs colorblind? Because some days I sit there and think, who the friggin' hell did a test to see whether dogs are colorblind? Now, scientists used to say that dogs can only see in black and white. So for years, everyone was told dogs can only see in black and white. Now they can tell us they can see in about 3 or 4 different colors. But if you look into it and read about it, it actually tells you that the science is questionable, because a number of science theories have been tested and a number of them have not come up conclusive enough. So some people will say they can see 3 colors and their retina in their eye and they're on cone shapes and all this. Have you ever seen a dog with glasses on? Have you ever seen a short-sighted dog? Well, I can tell you, I've had dogs that cannot mark a bird in the sky. And I've had dogs that will mark a bird so far away, it's unbelievable. But can I tell you what color they see? No, because I think we see different colors. We see different colors. So which dog are they testing? And some dogs that they tested, they put an orange paper up and a yellow paper up, and the dog couldn't distinguish the 2 colors by actually touching it with his paw for food. Well, hang on, you're playing the law of percentages that way, aren't you? So I don't know who come up with the theory. How can you test a dog to see whether it can see clearly, not see clearly? But I can tell you one thing. How many of you have thrown a dummy for a dog? You see the dummy right near the dog and the dog's still hunting for it. And until he actually comes across it with his nose, he don't pick it. And yet you can see it because visually you can see it in the grass. And yet he's still got his nose down. Dogs use their nose hell of a lot. Now, if you're testing a dog for ability to find stuff, well, we can go out in the backfield and see how good the dog is, can't we? But I don't believe all this science, and yet I read the science because I want to learn as much as I can about dog training. And wouldn't it be fantastic if you could say to the dog, go for the red dummy, go for the green dummy, go for the blue dummy, go for the yellow dummy, go for the white dummy. But no, they can't. They rely on their nose more than their eyes. I agree with you 100%, Karen, they do. But at the end of the day, can I make it look like they're going for the dummy I want them to? Of course I can. Because I could say, go for the green dummy, go for the green dummy. And if they're going for the yellow dummy, I could blow the stop whistle and put my hand across without you seeing it on camera. And you think, shit, that dog knew what the green dummy was. So what I'm saying is I've watched and studied the science about dogs as much as possible. And you listen to all this stuff, and it's the same scenario. Someone was asking me the same question about testosterone, right? Have dogs got testosterone and humans? Well, I think they have. But do dogs carry the same testosterone? I think they do. Because at the end of the day, some dogs will climb on a bitch, whether she's coming in season or in season, and manhandle her. Other dogs, like Wiz, for instance, is really clever. He'll sniff them, but he won't go near them until that 4-day period of he knows. So who's the cleverer dog? And that's the same as humans, isn't it? Some humans are highly sex driven and other humans aren't. And I think dogs are exactly the same. Dogs are exactly the same. So, I mean, look at Harley Quinn, for Christ's sake. What the freaking hell's that Alan Chadwick sent me? What has he sent us? We've never had one like it. Have you seen that dog shagging everything? What's he going to be like when he grows up? Eh? Can we say that? How's Dougie's retrieving, Chris? Slowly progressing. Dougie's retrieving is absolutely phenomenal for about 5 or 6 retrieves. In the yard, no problem at all. In the field, he's doing it, but I'm not giving it him in the field. I'm giving it him less is more, and I'm Top producer like his dad. Bloody hell. Alan Chadwick, top producer.
No.
No? What's she on about now?
No, it's Buzz, isn't it?
Top producer like his dad. Yes, I tell you what, that Harley Quinn has some litters, doesn't she? Buzz, I mean. Oh, thank Christ for that. I thought you meant Ernie. Ernie the milkman. He's not here, is he? And what I'm saying, Jay, is I'm mixing it up with your dog. I'm taking your dog out on concrete. I'm taking your dog. Your dog is going to listen to me now under every circumstance that I give him. He's going to push boundaries and he's going to learn through association that you've got to listen. Then we're going to go back to retrieving. But at the moment, he's retrieving when I ask him to retrieve, but he's getting less. Who's the naughtiest dog at the minute? Your dog, Jay, by far. Your dog by far, Jay. Trust me.
He gets a gold star.
He gets a gold star, Sue said. But he's not howling in the kennel. He switches off quite nicely now in the kennel. He goes out the back. He'd go out the back on his own with other dogs there. Don't believe you. There you go. He's not a big problem dog. I just think that genetically you've bought into something that is, you've bought into what you like visually, haven't you? And you didn't really study the dog as much as perhaps you should have. And I may be wrong. You may have studied it like crazy. Can't but love him, the soft thing. He is a soft thing, but you've got to let him become a little bit naughty, and that's what I've had to do. If I'd come straight down on him, Jay, and just done nothing but discipline when he got here, I would have suppressed it and not seen the behaviors. I needed to nurture, play, then start to see the real dog, and then approach it in the direction that I'm approaching it. It's as simple as that. Any questions up here, Susan?
Yeah, you got one from Phil.
Phil Watkins. Chris, I use an e-collar. I use an e-collar correctly on my Springer. Now I can put the e-collar on without the remote, and his behavior is perfect. When I take it off, he turns into Rafa. Well, you're not doing it. You've just got to keep doing it, Phil, and keep the collar on him. And you've got to put the collar on him and take him out without even using it. And you've got to get him into the condition, and then just go and put an ordinary collar on him, an ordinary leather collar on him, or something that is very similar to the e-collar, and you'll see the difference. It took Rafa probably 2 months to work out the collar, and then he would try and play it up. Now he just knows if he plays up, the collar goes back on, and we give a refresher course, and we don't very often do it. We just don't have to do it. It's as simple as that. I've not put the collar on Rafa for months because he now knows the boundaries. Yes, he pushes on the odd occasion, and yes, he's a stubborn mule. But guess what? We don't fall out very often. You know, we don't fall out because he knows not to push you. They test you. It was so important that if you people watch that video with Dougie, I could have corrected with the e-collar, but the dog was in close. And he growled and had a go at one of my dogs, and he was that close. I stepped in and used my hand. I want to use my hand because I want him to realize it's coming from me and it's personal. He's upset me, and I want him to see me as a leader, but I don't want him to fear me. So if you overcorrect all the time, the dog's going to fear you. But I didn't hurt him, but it was short, sharp, and fast. But the timing was perfect. And it's all to do with timing. You can't punish the dog 5 minutes after the event. You've got to catch the dog in the moment. Catch the dog in the moment, you can rearrange the mindset, and the dog will learn from it. It doesn't mean you've got to get into a fight every day with the dog, but this is now I'm stepping it up. And I was showing you in the field for the first time of stepping it up. This was the first time that I've stepped it up for him. And that's why I was showing it. And I can show it in Patreon. And yes, somebody could technically put it on video, screen it, and then share it to the world. I don't care. I stand with what I do. I don't want people to do that. And I'm asking people on Patreon not to do that. And if I find out who's done it, I'll just throw them off. But I stand by everything I do. But what a beautiful video to show that discipline works perfect when done like that. Because look how fast he reacted and calmed down. I guarantee if I do that for a week with that dog won't get into those same habits. I'm changing the habits of what that dog's doing. Now, is it important that I change those habits? I'm destroying drive by doing what I'm doing to a certain extent, not ball drive, not dummy drive, but I'm destroying, bringing the drive down because he's hyper when he goes in the field. He's like a big silly child and he runs around like a headless chicken and he plows into stuff and then he just gets all flustered and starts to growl and pin dogs down. And at the end of the day, I'm not having it because I can't have that because he'll end up going out with Jay on a par and another dog will come racing across to be friendly with him and he'll do that and the two dogs will get into a fight. May not do as a puppy, it may scare him as a puppy, but as an older dog and he's a big dog, he'll say back off and then all of a sudden you've got a problem. You've got a dog now that is dog on dog aggressive and you don't want that. And that's not fair because if the kids are there as well and then they grab hold of the dog when they're a little bit older and the dog treats them like he treated another dog, back off, don't do that to me. And yet he's a lovable dog, but you can change the mindset if these dogs get into fights. You don't want these dogs to get into fights, so it's best to stop that behavior at this stage and calm him down and say, listen, I want some sociability here. You have to be sociable with other dogs and learn to be sociable, learn to be friendly. And he's not a nasty dog. Lee Summers, can I ask if there's a difference between pet springers and working springers in the bloodlines? Would a pet bloodline be less likely to hunt or want to hunt like working lines? Never read this. It's a good question, that, Lee. It's a good question. Sometimes the watered down lines, and when I say watered down, say they come from working lines originally, but then they've gone from pet to pet to pet to pet. Some of them dogs have still got those genetics, and they've still got those genetics, and the genetics are still there. The problem is if you've got a couple of dogs down the road who were pets and they become aggressive and they become snappy with other dogs, well, that's a behavior problem. That's not a breeding problem. But if you've got dogs that are fighting all the time and you just keep breeding with them and then somebody breeds down the road with another dog that's a fighter, then you can bang that into genetics. As a competition dog, people should be breeding for the temperament, for the trainability, and for the fact it's got no faults. So what are the major faults? The major faults are giving tongue, making a noise when you cast it off, making a noise, barking when it's hunting. You know, that is a no-no for a competition dog. So if you're breeding off that sort of dog, you're asking to get that in your breeding. So how would you know you've got that or not got that if you just bought it from down the road from a pet? But can a pet still throw back the genetics? Of course it can, because it goes back to the wolf originally, doesn't it? If you went back far enough, you come into the wolf reign, wouldn't you? You'd have to go back a long, long way. But let's just say my lines, for instance, have got no red in them anymore because they're not competition dogs. Where when I was running competition, there was red in there. And when I say red, that means they're either field trial winners or field trial champions. And the pedigrees used to be absolutely full of red, right? At the end of the day, they've not got red in there now. They've got black. So when you look in the pedigrees and there's no red in there, you could say that's not going to make good stock. Load of rubbish. Because if you're breeding for quality and you continue breeding for quality, just because you're not running in competition doesn't mean they're not quality dogs. So we go back to, would they make good pets? Yes, in the right hands they make good pets. But would my early dogs make good pets? No. Why? Because they were too highly strung, they were too driven, and we were putting fire to fire. So we were putting a real hard-going spaniel to another hard-going spaniel, and then a harder spaniel on that one to that one. And we created bloodlines that people were having to beat with a 2B2 or a birch, you know, and it's wrong. It's completely wrong. I'm not saying I've done that. I wouldn't beat a dog with a piece of 2B2, but I've seen people smashing dogs to pieces with instruments of torture because the dog is just so driven. So what happened is they've softened the lines, and some of them people can now handle those softer lines. But it's not about beating a dog, it's about mastering a dog. But not everybody would be able to master a real out and out hunting machine. It could be too much for some people. And that doesn't mean that the professionals beat these dogs into submission, but trust me, some of those top champion dogs were beaten into submission before they ran in a trial. They were beaten, I mean, taken back behind the car park and given a good hiding just to bring the drive down. If you notice, the same with Dougie is a fine example out in the field there. Dougie started off up there, and by the time he came back in, he was there. There, he was level-headed. Up there, he was full of himself and being silly. If you let him get to there, then the control goes out the window. It's as simple as that. And that's the same scenario. Is that question you just asked there? It was a good question. Lee, pet springers can make great working dogs, and sometimes the drive can be just right for the average person who hasn't got much of an understanding. But if you went down that road and went training pet after pet after pet, you might wait a long while before you find one good enough to win a competition, because perhaps the lines ain't so strong. But there's a lot to do with the training as well. I've taken many a very, very average pedigree and turned those dogs into good quality working dogs for people. I don't know the history behind the lines, but it's not messing them up and knowing how to get the best out of them. That's the thing. I mean, I was talking about dopamine. I was going through a paragraph in my book, and I just put it up for everyone to see in Patreon. And we're talking about dopamine and those dopamine levels of when if you did a graph, it would look like a hill, right? And dopamine comes in, it doesn't come in when it's caught the rabbit or caught the bird. It comes in the anticipation of catching the bird. Now, if it caught a bird or a rabbit every time it went out hunting, right, the dopamine would come down. But the dopamine is at its highest at the middle of the peak, because it's the anticipation of catching the bird or the rabbit. And so if you only catch a rabbit or a bird 50% of the time, it takes the dopamine level higher than catching it all the time, because it's that apprehension. It's like I'm trying to remain sensible here, and I don't know how to. It's like having a girlfriend for the first time and getting very excited when you're nearly going to score, but not quite score, right? It takes your dopamine level or your testosterone level up to that level. But if you scored every time you went to the disco, it's always to do with sex with me, isn't it, for some reason? Isn't it, Sue? If you scored every time you went to the disco with a girl, it wouldn't quite mean as much as if you scored every other week. That's if you go to the disco twice a week. Anyway, I don't know why I went down that road. Dogs are no different from us. We are all different. Pierre, tell me about it. I saw you on telly yesterday, Pierre. We watched the film. You were in it. No, we won't tell you what film it was. Me and Sue were laughing. Not me. I wasn't laughing, Pierre. It was Sue laughing. It was funny. I'll explain it to you when I see it. I might show it you. Just a bit where there's Pierre. Spitting image of Pierre. No, it wasn't Bruce Lee. It was Bruce Easy.
You got
Denver Skinner. Chris, my black lab is so ball driven and have not got the stop on her. But if you make her wait even for 5 seconds for a retrieve, she whines till you let her go for it. Oh dear me, you're obviously doing something seriously wrong there, aren't you? Your dog shouldn't be whining. If I was you, I'd cut out the ball. I'd cut out the ball retrieving if you've taken the drive to that level. Who goes to discos now, Chris? It's the 70s. That's the 70s. Yes, Simon Spruce. It was the 70s, wasn't it? Okay. It's like chasing the girls that play hard to get. It's all in the chase. Richard Gould. That was exactly what I was looking for. It's all in the chase. It's not all about the sex, is it? As we get older, it's whether we can still pull. Stop it, you dirty lot. Stop it. Barry, Chris, I would like to send you a video of me and my 9-month-old lab. I'd rather see your dog than you, Barry. No problem at all. Chris, I would rather like to send you a video of me and my 9-month-old lab for appraisal. Barry E, are you on Patreon? What do you need to see for it to be valuable? Any advice, please? Barry E, are you on Patreon? If you're on Patreon, I break down videos for people on Patreon and do a voiceover for you and explain to you how to change certain things in your training. I need someone holding your camera to start with, or your camera in a place where I can actually see everything that's happening, so I can see your movement and the dog's movement. And you need to keep it down to about no more than 5 minutes per video that you send me. You can send me 2-3 videos, but keep it down to 5 minutes and you'll find that you can send them. And most people are sending them on what, Sue? WhatsApp. what's up? And it's free. And I can sometimes pick up the phone and talk to you over that by watching the video and talking to you over that. But there is a charge unless you're on Patreon. If you're on Patreon, I do that part of the service for my customers who support me each month. It doesn't mean I can do one every week for you, but it means that you've got that facility. So if you're on Patreon, you can send me a video. I'll do an appraisal over it. I'll do a voiceover. We can put it up for other people to see. We've got 61 people in the house and only 17 thumbs up, you tight Barcelonian bargain hunters. I've not even come up for air at the moment. I'm like a friggin' I'm like a dolphin going down for air. I haven't stopped talking. I haven't even had my bloody tea yet, you lot. I've come on here, rushed off my feet. Anyway, Sue's telling us something. Okay.
No, there was a Harry Boy 12.
Harry Boy 12. Hi, Chris. Chris without an H. That's a Chrissy Chris. That's a gay Chris, isn't it? Have a 2-year-old Labrador doing well? Thanks. Following your channel. Thank you very much indeed. Why did Sue tell me that?
No. There was no different.
Oh, another one. She says.
Hang on.
Oh, she wants me to hang on. Hang on to what, Susan?
Took over. Hang on. Right. So Harry Boy 12 says, "Hi Chris, I have a 2-year-old Labrador doing well thanks to following your channel." But then he put down, and I should imagine it may be the same dog. How would you stop a dog from dropping its head when delivering retrieve?
Right, it's a good question. Now, how do you get a dog to stop dropping its head when delivering the treat? Then I bring them onto a place board, because I bring the place board is up higher, and they're coming in. And sometimes I sit on a chair and let them come into me on the chair, and I hold some food sometimes just to get them to get that confidence of lifting their head. But I hold the food higher up, and so as they come in on the chair, I guide them in. I'm going to do it with my hand on the camera. Can I do this? I guide them in to exactly. I open my legs. I'm not being rude. On the chair, wide. Dog comes in between my legs, and I guide the food. So he smells the food, and he lifts his head and comes up. And I don't take the dummy till he comes up. So I hold the food roughly where my zip is. Look, where my zip is, and I hold the food there as I guide him in with it. So he comes in, and I lure him up to that position. I then treat there high up. Don't always have to use food. Sometimes you can guide the head up from underneath the chin. Just bring the head up and bring the head up, and don't take the retrieve off the dog until the retrieve is there. The dog is up there with that position. If you're reaching down, that's where you cause your problem. Denver Skinner, my labs are both bitches and they shag each other. Well, I'm not surprised about that, Denver. I'm not surprised about that at all, because I think you've got a little bit of dominance in your labs, even though you told me they were soft. I think you've got a little bit of dominance in those labs with what you're telling me. I may be wrong. You could always send me a video of these dogs, couldn't you, Denver? We could always do a breakdown of these. That's the wonderful thing about technology, isn't it? If you think about it, with the technology we've got now, you can take a video of your dog and send it to me the same day. And as we're isolated here at the moment, and I'm not doing as much as I would be normally doing with customers, yes, I'm still busy. I'm busy putting up videos. I'm busy editing. I'm busy training the dogs I've got here. But it's a fine time to be sending me those small clips that I can put up, I can critique, and then put them up on Patreon for you. And I think most people on Patreon, would you vouch that you're enjoying the videos? Could you give us a bollocks if you're enjoying watching other people's videos of other people's dogs? Do you find that is very helpful by watching other people's mistakes and seeing the quality of other people's works? It gives you an idea of where you are in training. And isn't it great that we've got a like-minded group of people who are willing to do that and show their work? And these people on here will only tell you, these people on here who are on the Patreon site, whether they think those videos are valuable or whether they think they're a waste of time. So there's only a few people who like them, look. But I don't know how many people are on here who are on the group. But yeah, look at that, look. So there you go. Look at that, look. exactly. So it just gives you an idea of how we help each other on the group. As simple as that. And if there's a certain amount of people on here, the same people who get involved in making comments, and it's those people that are giving each other support and helping each other, and yet remaining friendly as well, as a friendly group of people. No one's rude on there. If anyone's rude on there, I just throw them off, because the money is irrelevant about the quality of people on there and the people who are enjoying themselves, and that's important to me. You know, I've got a good few Patreon customers now, and I appreciate that, and this is what's keeping us going. But at the end of the day, I don't suffer fools gladly. So if there's anybody on there who wants to leave and they're not happy with what's on there, they can leave, no problem at all. It's there for people, it's their group. I'm just running it, and there's a lot of time and commitment that's in that, and I'm leaving some knowledge and understanding for other people to understand how to train a dog and how to get the best out of the dog. And it's not about bullying and discipline all the time. That's a small percentage of it, but it's the biggest percentage. It's the biggest area where people don't seem to get right. And like Peter Piper says, worth every penny. You know, I've tried to keep it as low as possible, and there is a number of other dog trainers that have gone on there on Patreon, and they're having a go at running a Patreon site, and I keep an eye on it all. And at the end of the day, I think that the reason that I've got as many as I've got is because I've been doing it for 10 years and giving out free advice. And some of those people came over with me. Some of those people have been really good and supported me. And like I say, for the regular people who've supported me all the time, I would have liked to send it's free for you guys. And it's only for people who haven't supported me who have to pay. But unfortunately, I can't do that. So I decided to keep the prices down as low as possible to make it approachable for everybody. And then we get people coming on YouTube saying, I think you're disgraceful making your YouTube charging people on YouTube when you didn't used to charge people. I think you freaking lost your plot, mate. I've never charged anybody on YouTube, but I promoted myself on YouTube because I was sick and tired of seeing so many people who were charlatans, and you all know this, and we've talked about this so many times, so I don't want to keep going on about that. And I'm still to this day angry sometimes with some of the crap I read, and how some people are just being misled by idiots out there who haven't got a clue, who have not got a clue, because there's so many of them out there. It's just a minefield for anybody who doesn't have any understanding, and they just believe that you can do it all with love and affection. If you could do it with all by love and affection, you wouldn't need people like me. I would be a dinosaur. I would be down the road, but I'm not a dinosaur. I'm far more skilled than most of these people could even imagine, and I study everything and anything I can get my hands on about dog training. And that's what I like about dog training. It's a never-ending learning circle, and never ever stop learning. Never ever think you know it all, because then you do become history. Simple as that. Anyway, two questions. Who, Susan?
Well, James Monaghan's put it off about 4 or 5 times. What would you say for each situation is the best time to give discipline?
Impossible to say, James.
Oh, I thought the same.
James Monaghan. I can't see the comment.
So he's put it off about 4 times, and there's another one here.
Impossible. Let me just read it out again loud, please, Susan. Hang on. I've been James Monaghan. When I've been with Tim Covers, he told me.
It's much further down than that. What would you say for each situation is the best time to give discipline?
I'm trying to find it. No, I can't find it.
Just for each situation, what would you say the right time to give discipline? You put it off about 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, it's impossible to say, James, without seeing the situation. Can you put the light on, sir? It's getting darker and darker. They think the electric's gone. Michael McGraw. I can't see other professional trainers give the advice and entertainment at the same time. Patreon is first class. Thank you, Michael. That's very nice of you. Lorraine Brunner. Hi, Chris. Have you got any further in getting the past videos back? Funny enough, I spoke to someone today. Someone asked me the same question, Lorraine. Absolutely, I am struggling like crazy with YouTube because of the virus thing, and they reckon they got not so many staff working. It's like dealing with a secret service. Honestly, it's like dealing with a secret service. I can't get any information from them. And like I say, 5,500 videos going round and round and round in cyberspace somewhere, and all they have to do is hand them back to me, and then I can put them up on my Patreon site. And that's why I'm having to work double as hard, because what I'm having to do is I kept all the old videos, but they weren't edited. And so when I edited them, I then put them up onto YouTube, thinking they'll be there forever for everybody, to everyone to learn. And eventually I was going to categorize them when I retired, so people had a library of how we get the best out of the dogs. It's the ones that were with the customers that matter to me more than anything. I've lost all the Scotty ones, because when Scotty came along, I think 4 years ago, that's when I started putting them up on YouTube, and I thought YouTube would have been there forever. And yes, I may have made a mistake with copyright, as in Peter Kane's fucking crappy fucking comments, and I've got proof that he said he was going to share my videos, and I said I'd share his videos. I got suckered in, and then he turned nasty and said he didn't give permission on that when they contacted him. Now the thing is, I've got to thank Peter Kane, but I got to thank the people around me, because when they were all disappeared, I was so demoralized and so cheesed off with all that work, and angry as well. Angry, really, really angry. I was so cheesed off with all that work. I went into, and I don't get depressed very often, but it broke me. It broke me. I lay in bed for 2 days thinking, I can't believe this. What a dirty little bastard Peter Kane was. But do you know what? It's funny, isn't it? It's turned around and bit him in the arse, isn't it? Because it made me get off my arse with my friends around me who backed me and said, get out there and do that Patreon site that we've been telling you to do. And I got to thank Soul, because he was the one who poked me with a stick and said, stop feeling sorry for yourself, get off your arse, stop putting them back on YouTube, and go over to Patreon. So we got to thank Soul for motivating me, with a few other people who motivated me in the background, and said, get out there, dust yourself off, you've got the following, and they'll follow you. And you are the guys who are on Patreon who I salute, because without your help, without your support, then we wouldn't have the Patreon site, and I wouldn't have any money coming in. I'd be fighting the government for back payments, and at the end of the day, that's going to be another nightmare. But at the end of the day, my calendar, you could get desert blind with it, couldn't you? Because there's nothing on it. It's all white, where normally it's all full. So normally I'd be living off my earnings. Luckily, I can live off the Patreon to a certain extent, and every penny helps. So it's funny how it's backfired on Peter Kane, isn't it? Because he wanted to destroy somebody's business. What an evil, nasty little sod. And yes, he's definitely hurt the Gundog world. Not his world. It didn't affect him at all. It just shows what a nasty piece of work he was. But what I'm saying is, for £5 a month, that's the top tier. That's £5 a month. That's £1.25 a week, or £1.40 a week by the time you pay tax on it, whatever. It's less than a cup of coffee a week, isn't it? And I'm giving you videos. Now, I've looked at other dog trainers' videos out there and how long they've had Patreon sites, and some of them have got like 15 videos up. Some have only got 2 videos up. Some are charging £15 a month, one flat rate. Some are charging £10 a month, one flat rate. Some people have got different tiers. So I watched the marketplace, but in the 2 months that we've had the site up, it's coming up to 3 months, you've got 370 videos on there, a lot of write-ups, photos, and I'm trying to entertain you and keep you engaged. And I want you people to be part of that group. So I read every comment that you put up. Doesn't mean I can answer every comment, but I read every comment, because I'm running the group for you. You are the people who started it with me, and you can guide me in what direction you like. And by putting likes or comments on the videos, it shows me what you like, and that's the really important part. So I think personally, I'm over the moon with how Patreon has worked. There you go, Kieran Evans. In my opinion, I'd rather have 1 million followers at £6 than 10 followers at £50. Exactly. And you've got to realize that, especially in these times at the moment, some people can afford it no problem at all, and some people would be struggling because of the hardship. Some people got to put food on the table, and I totally understand that has to come first, doesn't it? Your family, but it gives you something. If you build it, they will come. There you go. That's what I'm thinking, Richard. And so, wouldn't it be nice if I had 5,500 videos on there, and you could go to any category? And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to break it down into categories. And some people are struggling to find the categories on there. And I don't know what you can see on the Patreon site, because what they show me is different to what you see. Some people come on and say, I'm finding it difficult to find certain things. But if you go into the index, there's an index in there. And if you put in retrieving, eventually there'll be 2,000 videos on retrieving. If you go in there, stop whistle, the stop, then you'll find videos on that. So I'm building a catalog. I'm editing stuff. I'm on the computer probably 4 hours a day at the moment. Is it too much? Yes, but you've got to get this baby up and running. And once we've got the baby up and running, and so in some ways the lockdown has been a good thing, because I would have had loads of customers. I could video their videos and stick the videos up for you, and you like them as well. You like watching those customers' videos and those dogs coming here, showing the problems and how we resolve it. But at the end of the day, it makes a difference, doesn't it? How we mix it up. We mix it up, so we give you a complete mixture. Come on, give me your opinions on here. Tell everybody what you think. Tell me what you feel. Totally agree, Paul. But you have to take your hat off to Chris for wanting to keep it at the price for all. Thank you. Well done. Well, really good.
While you're waiting for that, you've got a couple of questions.
Come on then, Susan. But you're going to have to say them out loud.
Yeah, Barry E.
Barry E.
Hi, Chris. Would like to send video of me and my 9-month-old lab pup for appraisal. What do you need to see for it?
We've already done that, Susan. If you were listening, honestly.
Jason Vernon, have you done that one? What age would you say a Springer or Cocker is fully mature?
What age? That's a good one. What age do I think of? Would you say
a Springer or Cocker is fully mature?
I would say 4 years of age. 4 years of age would be fully mature, as in they're at their best if you've trained them right. I think 2 years, they're still babies, really. But I've won with 2 18-month-old dogs in competition and testing trials. It all depends on each individual dog. Some dogs don't come out of themselves until they're 3 years old. I trained my first couple of dogs, and I had them what I call fully trained at 6 months of age. But guess what? I turned them into robots, hand reliant, looking at me for every command. And then I didn't realize that until I'd gone further on in my career. As simple as that.
Peter Piper,
I'd rather pay £5 a month for Patreon than go to some of the clowns that say they are Gundog trainers.
No, his question was, when the dog sees me setting up the dummy launcher, he makes some noise, but the more I use it, he is becoming more quiet. Is this likely to disappear completely through time as he gets used to it?
I don't honestly know, Peter, to be honest with you, because some dogs are driven and wound up, and some dogs you can switch off by calming them down. It's back to that same scenario. If anybody can pick up a racket and build ball drive, it's knowing when to stop the ball drive and when to start and put the control into the dog. And somebody said to me, my dog loves the ball and the racket, but he won't retrieve dummies. That's because you've not watched my videos. If you watch my videos, the dummies and let's have a look at Harley Quinn. Harley Quinn is retrieving everything and anything that I ask him to at this stage. Then he's going to go through life doing that. If you give him the ball, and he builds that drive for that ball, and that's where we talk about that dopamine, of that level of I want it. If you take your dog to that level, then you can knock yourself back. You can knock yourself back because you've got to now suppress the drive to control the noise. But unfortunately, a lot of cockers have got noise. So there's a balance between knowing. For instance, if I take Rafa out with the whole gang, the adrenaline comes up. He's got competition there. That is dopamine. That is drive related again. See, we got a number of drives. We got prey drive. We got survival drive. We got fight and flight. there's a number of drives that the dogs get, and the thing is, it's tapping into each one, but not overdoing it. If you overdo it, you create a bigger problem. And that's why I say there's a level you can go, and then you've got to stop and start moving your training. Once you've created that desire, then you can start putting the steadiness on the dog and the control in the dog. If you put the control in the dog too soon, and the drive is up there, but you put the control in too soon, then the dog gets frustrated, and that can cause that problem as well. So that's impossible to answer. I'd love to answer that question. Good question, but I can't tell you unless I see you and the dog, because dogs can learn to calm down and be very excited at first, but as soon as you take a dummy launcher out or a shotgun, or you go on a shoot, that takes the drive up even more if you're not careful. So you've got to get the control in the dog and get the dog to learn to switch off. As simple as that. Paul Cocker, how's the fillet steak, Chris? I don't know. Rafa had it. What happened with that is we'd had some steak and we left it on the side and forgot to put it in the fridge. And I just thought, no, I'm not going to eat that. It might give me a bad belly, so I give it to Rafa. I give it to Rafa just to show you how you can call a dog off food. If you can call a dog off a bitching season, really banging season, and you can call a dog away from a running bird and a running rabbit, if you can't call him away from a piece of steak, then you ain't doing your job properly. You haven't got your steadiness in the dog. I just used it to show people, because people said dogs are food motivated and you can never stop a dog doing what he wants to do when it comes to food. So I took the highest value food that I could think of, fillet steak. He might like fish and he might not listen to me, but if you watch the video, if you go back and watch the video, there was a split second where I had to change my tone in my voice, because when I whistled him back, he looked at the steak again for that split second, and me and Sue laughed because he got that little streak in him, and hey, get here. And I changed my tone in my voice and he came back. But he did look at it, because he'd smelt it. As soon as he come out the back of the dog box, he'd smelt it. Like the sit downs. Yes, Simon Spruce. Yeah, I like the sit downs, because the sit downs tells me so much about each client and each dog, and it helps other people. Do you still use Crowdcast? Can't always get on there. We seem to have sorted it out, Crowdcast. I'm probably going on there tomorrow night for everybody on Patreon, and I will put it up for people to come on there if you want to go on there for an hour tomorrow night for Patreon. I'm going to try and go on once a week for Patreon customers only at the moment while we've got the lockdown. So I think I've sussed it. So we got a good few people on there, and we actually had a good live feed, but it was actually up there for other people to watch on Patreon. So I don't know if you saw that.
Did you answer the John Griffin's one about lead training, yank and crank? Did you?
No, Susan. Hang on.
Griffiths.
Susan, how far up is it? Because
2042.
Well, I haven't got a time on here.
Hi, Chris. I've got a 7-month-old cocker dog having trouble with lead training. How would to get over this? I've tried with yank and crank. It seems it's not getting in. Right, I've found it now. John Griffiths. Hi, Chris. I've got a 7-month-old cocker dog having trouble with lead training. Well, 7 months old. You know, this is what had happened. You'd come to me, John, and I'd say, what's your problem, John? And you'd say, I've got a 7-month-old dog and I'm having trouble with the lead training. And my first question would be, how long have you been having him on the lead, John? And if you said, oh, from 8 weeks old, and how long has he been pulling? How did you teach him lead training? Did you teach him from the start and he was okay and now he's pulling? Or has he been pulling ever since you put him on the lead? All these things are so important. This is what we do the sit downs for, and this is where we get a little bit more information. Because if you watch my videos, John, you'll understand that I do not punish 7-month-old dogs with yank and crank. I don't need to. But if you see how I use pressure and release, and the dog learns to switch off the pressure himself because it's uncomfortable when he hits the end of the line with a long line. And when I say a long line, you want it about 15 feet long, not 40 feet long, 15, 20 feet long. And you put the lead around the dog, and the dog kicks like a bronking mule, like a horse that's being broken. And then the horse cannot continue doing that. And the horse just learns to switch it off. The horse will run round and round and round and round. The dog doesn't run round and round. What the dog does, it just tries to break free of the pressure. As soon as it hits the end of the line, the dog goes, oh, I'm not liking this, I'm not liking this, and starts pulling and throwing himself in the air. And it doesn't look nice, but guess what?
he learns to switch that pressure off in 5 minutes. But if you've had a short slip lead on the dog, or a flat buckle collar, and you've been taking the dog around the block, and you've been teaching the dog that going in front of you is the fun element, then you've created that and you've caused yourself the problem at 7 months old. And lead training is one of the most simple things to sort out in a dog. It's unbelievable. But if you're playing yank and crank at 7 months of age, you're only toughening the dog up, and the dog is seeing it as part and parcel of fun. Now, I can tell you this, that a dog's pain threshold is higher than most humans. Now, some people say it's 7 times higher. I've always had this argument. How can you tell me your dog's pain threshold is 7 times higher than a human? Some humans love pain, and some humans would avoid pain at any cost. Some humans can take a certain amount of pain, but we're all different, and dogs are exactly the same. But if you've been playing yank and crank with your dog for 7 months, all you're doing is hardening him up, the same as giving your dog discipline, punishment all the time. Punishment has got to be very select. Less is more. And it's exactly the same on a lead. Less is more. Teach the dog to want to turn the pressure off, not you turn the pressure off. Old school was yank and crank. Does yank and crank work? Yes. But you're going to have to take the dog off his feet if he's pulling you like a lunatic and you've allowed him. And guess what? Most people won't go to that level. And if that's why, if you read the Keeler book explains it. But today's modern society, everyone goes, that's barbaric. Don't tell me it doesn't work. It works a treat. But guess what? You're going to have to step it up in a situation where the dog realizes there's a serious consequence if you push the boundary of pulling on the lead. And that's not the way to get the best out of the dog. And that's to do with education. That's to do with knowledge and understanding. I've tried the yank and crank. It seems to be not getting nowhere. So great question. But you need to watch my Patreon, if you're on Patreon, and watch Pressure and Release. And there will be a whole section. I'm trying to get the stuff up as fast as I can. You know, I'm not as young as I used to be, but I'm trying to get up. And I'm sometimes putting up 10 videos a day, and other times only putting up 1 or 2 videos. But some days I'm putting up 20 videos because I'm trying to put a catalog up there for you to give you something to look at. Now, not everybody's going to watch every video every day because you haven't got enough time in the day, because some of those videos that I've had to edit, I'm having to sit down, edit them, watch them, load them up, catalog them, put them in categories. But guess what? Give it 3 or 4 months, and Patreon site, another 3 or 4 months, Patreon site will be something that other people would only be envious of. As simple as that.
It's like YouTube.
55 people in here and 21 likes, you type Barcelonian bargain hunters.
Have you seen the John F one?
John F. Susan wants me to look at John F.
Yeah, so John F. Not sure why my YouTube name is John F. But I messaged you with a video of my Springer bitch tidying up for delivery. The badly dressed one on the farm.
John,
I messaged you, and within the hour you replied. My girlfriend doesn't even reply that fast. But £5 a month for that type of service is unbelievably cheap. Follows you for years now, and even before Patreon, you always replied. Fantastic service. My dogs wouldn't be the standard they are now if it wasn't for following you. Straight to the point with you, no bullshit, and that's what I like. So big thanks again, Chris and Sue. I didn't do nothing.
Sue said she didn't do nothing. That's very nice of you, John F. Thank you for that wonderful comment. That's really nice of you. And that's what this is about, everyone. It's people like John F. who give you that feedback, because you haven't seen the shit. Well, some of you have. Some of you haven't seen the shit I've had to go through to fight the corner to say that discipline is part and parcel of life, and discipline is part and parcel of training dogs. And they come onto this. You see thumbs down all the time on my YouTube. I don't give a shit. I honestly don't give a shit. We laugh at it. But at the end of the day, we're moving it over to Patreon, because if they want to put thumbs down or make negative comments, they can pay for it, can't they? Because it's for people who are willing to pay that small amount each month. And you know, I felt guilty at first. I thought, well, I'm earning enough money as a dog trainer when people having the decency to come here, let me video them, let me show my skills. And my skills are that good that I can turn a dog around on the day. But I can't answer and be 100% right with everybody's question that they give you on forums and when they talk to you. You cannot beat one-to-one watching the handler and watching the dog. But second best is watching a video of the handler and the dog rather than reading a question off a live feed. I answer as many as I can of the questions that we get up here, everyone. But at the end of the day, you cannot beat one-to-one. That is the best thing out there. And that's not just so you come to me. That takes up time. It costs you money. It costs you travel. It's more expensive. But the Patreon site, it gives you a great insight into knowledge, a great insight into understanding. And I promote the trainers that I like and I've followed and I've learned from, because I don't think enough people do that. A lot of people will learn what they've learned, but then never say that person gave me so much insight. I bet you I've helped thousands and thousands of professional dog trainers, so-called professional dog trainers, because they've watched my page, they've watched my YouTube site. They've never turned around and said, thank you so much, Chris. You gave us such a boost when we needed it about giving discipline. There's a number of good dog trainers out there that I support, and they support me. And they support me because I open my big gob and talk about it in a passionate way, and how we can put correction on dogs and not destroy drive and not destroy the relationship. That is so important. But I don't want to be known to be the guy who talks about discipline all the time. But it's like Jamie Penrith. Jamie Penrith is known to be the e-collar guy standing up for the e-collar dog trainer. That doesn't mean Jamie Penrith can't train dogs without an e-collar, but Jamie Penrith is passionate about trying to fight the right to use the tool, and that's why we support him in that area. You know, dog trainers who get results, I'm all for. People who rip people off, I ain't got time for. And do I talk about them a bit too much sometimes? Perhaps I do, but it's one of them things. Frank Zappa fan, Chris. Yeah, so am I, Stephen. I was listening to some Frank Zappa today, and I did a video, and I wanted to put it up, but because of copyright, I didn't bother. But it took me an hour to edit this video and put it up, and it was fantastic. And I used Frank Zappa's satire of a number of his songs, and I did it. And I am a real fan of Frank Zappa. A real fan of Frank Zappa. And do you know what? It's funny, isn't it? The amount of people, the amount of artists that I like who are slightly eccentric or crazy, the amount of music people, the amount of people I've studied or watch on YouTube. I like those oddballs. I like some of those people who speak their mind and are outspoken. We're all different, aren't we? But you know, I just try and be me, and that's important to everyone. That you see the real Chris Upton. There's no. What you see is what you get with Chris Upton. As simple as that. Anyway, the upload speed is ridiculous. I can't keep the upload speed is ridiculous. I'm keeping it working at my own rate now, and well over 150 words deep in. I'll catch up. This is it. I mean, less is more. When we were using this, me and Sue were talking about this 2 days ago. When we realized that on YouTube, by putting up 25 videos, you get less views for a number of weeks. Once they've been up for a long time, a load of people watch them, and they were having massive views. But if you just put up 2 or 3 videos a week, those videos would hit 1,000 views a day, because people were hungry to watch more. So less is more. But at the moment, I'm actually putting up as much as I can on Patreon to give people something to flick back through and look at. And at the end of the day, I don't expect everyone to follow every video. Some guys do, and some guys have got the time. Some guys sit at work and watch the videos and get paid for it. They've told me this as well. We won't mention any names, but it's all to do with what you've got and how much determination you've got. I was talking to a few people this week about they come into the sport for the shooting, and then the dog work took over from the shooting. You know, it changes people's mindsets. Once you get a dog to a good standard, it makes a difference. Yeah, see you next week, Pierre. Thank you. Thanks for coming in. I haven't been on it this week, as sometimes I will take a break to absorb what I've watched and then come back and binge until my brain is full. That's it. Anything to add? Sure, we will love it here. No problem at all. So anything else on here, Sue, I've got to read I haven't read?
Chris, have you ever listened to any Marcus King's Great Blues?
Marcus who?
Chris, have you ever listened to any of Marcus King?
Yes, I have. Yeah, Marcus King. Yeah. I enjoyed Larry Crone's book. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so do I. Larry's a great guy. great, yeah, a lovely guy, and always helped other people as well. Larry's actually on my Patreon site, so you know, if anybody ever wanted to talk to Larry, I'm sure we could get Larry on. Larry's a great guy, and it would be great when he comes over to England that we could perhaps get together and show him some dog work, some gun dog work. Larry comes from bird dog training originally when he was a lad, or going back a number of years, and now he's into what he does. Chris, have you ever listened? Yeah, Marcus King, done that blues. Fantastic feed tonight, bollocks. Thank you very much indeed. Thanks a lot. And Andy said, when are you thinking of doing lessons if they start relaxing the lockdown? It's a good question, Andy. There's another guy, everybody, Andy Stead. Without Andy Stead, we wouldn't have the caravan on the premises. It was Andy Stead's idea, the bastard. He said, look, I'm coming down here so often, instead of getting bed and breakfast, how about getting a caravan on there? And we use the caravan and let other people use it in between anyone traveling long distance. And to be honest with you, I thought to myself, I don't fancy everybody in my freaking yard. I don't know who's going to be coming down, but it's absolutely worked fantastic. So the reason I've mentioned that is one of the things we're not going to do straight away is open up the caravan for just anybody, because if people are coming down with a virus and then Sue gets in there and cleans it and someone else goes in there and the virus is everywhere, because she's not as young as she used to be. She used to do a hell of a good job of cleaning. Now she's not the scrubber she used to be.
Don't worry, I'll be in there with me bleach.
She'll be in there with a bleach, she said. So
there's one question. There was.
Hang on. It's been like it all night. And what I'm saying is, without Andy, that caravan wouldn't be there. The caravans work fantastic. It's saved people money. It's kept them on the premises while they're here. They've had a fantastic time with us. Hospitality is as good as my training. And we've had some fantastic people. And without the caravan, we wouldn't have met such wonderful people. So everyone's got to thank Andy Stead for that. That was Andy Stead's idea.
I did all that one.
So cheers, Andy. You bastard. So go on then, Susan. What are you saying, sweetheart?
Robert Jeffrey, he says he's got, Chris, when I take my 7 months pointer out for training, he gets easily distracted by crows and magpies and chases them. He doesn't listen and come back. Should I scold him for this or do something else?
No, he's 7 months old, isn't he? I'd have him on a long line, get out after him and just, chastise him, but not be too hard on him. Not be too hard. Say, come here, and give the verbal cue first. Because I've seen you. I think you've seen your dog, haven't I? Didn't you send me a video? I think you did you? We'll try to pop in on Patreon live tomorrow, Chris. But lots on at the moment. Understand, Richard, completely. No problem at all, mate. John F., did you get the question 2020 about the dog sky chasing?
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, just done that one. Okay, everyone. Come on, everyone. It's now 9 minutes past my bedtime. I only do an hour on here. I'm not giving you any longer than an hour. I know some of you would keep me here all night.
Chris, what dog insurance do you recommend?
Tesco's dog insurance. 15 quid a month. 15 quid a month. And they pay out to 1,500 quid if you lost your dog, as in it died or something like that. Kennel Club, complete rip-off. They only pay you for the price you paid for the dog, not for all the work you put into the dog. So there you go. Robert Jeffries, you sent video. Cheers for that advice. No problem at all. Like I said, anybody who wants to send a video, WhatsApp is the best way to send it, we found. You can put it in there. I can download it straight to the computer. I can then look at it. I can then critique it, and I'll send it out for you. I'd rather put £5 a week in a jar for insurance. Yep, that's fine, Kieran, until you get a 9 grand bill. That's fine until you get a 9 grand bill. And at the end of the day, then it comes down to how much is your dog worth in reality, and how much. And some people say my dog's worth £1 million. Well, would you, if you had a house and the mortgage was paid on it, would you give your house away to the vets so your dog may live for another 12 months? It's one of them moral questions, isn't it? Not the tables, Carlos. Night all. Thanks for your hard work, Chris and Sue. No problem at all. And I would like to thank my darling wife for helping me this evening. She's been an absolutely fantastic asset. She is. As you can see, I'm looking rather tired and old lately. I do that much reading and studying. Look.
You always look old and tired.
Hear what she said? I always look old and tired. Oh, you can tell we've been together so long, can't you? Good night, Sue, says Karen. Good night, John boy. Chris Upton signing off. Bollocks to the lot of you.